Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. In 1977, in a rural commune, 3 days after the government reinstated the National College entrance exam, my young intellectual fiancé, Eric Lynn, carried a fellow educated youth named Claire down from the mountain after she twisted her ankle. Then, using the excuse that he had accidentally touched her body, he demanded to break off our engagement. Now that I've been reborn, standing once again before the two people who destroyed my life in my previous one, who even stole my chance to take the college exam, I calmly nodded and said, "Fine, we can call off the engagement. But Eric, you'll have to return the 52 aired and the 1,000 work points you owe my father. If after being reborn I can't make those two pay for what they did, if I can't make them die miserable deaths, then I would have lived this life in vain." Eric the intellectual is carrying Claire the educated youth over here. My neighbor, Aunt Maggie, rushed up to me, her face full of disdain. She says he wants to break off the engagement with you. Claire's clothes are practically torn apart, showing her white skin underneath, and she's clinging to his back like she's glued to him. How shameless. Hearing that, my heart pounded violently. I couldn't believe it. I had actually been reborn. In my previous life, that beast in human skin, Eric Lynn, had deceived me so cruelly. After carrying Claire down the mountain, she was chased by a wild boar, rolled down a slope, tore her clothes and sprained her ankle. Eric had used that as an excuse, claiming he had accidentally touched her to demand that he marry her instead. He spoke so self-righteously, saying he had to take responsibility for Claire, turning his long-planned betrayal and infidelity into an act of noble sacrifice for her reputation. Back then, because I truly loved him, I agreed to end our engagement. In the end, not only was I branded as arrogant and unreasonable, but my father, a company commander, was also condemned as a man who didn't know right from wrong. Eric Lynn had calculated everything perfectly. He knew I wouldn't refuse because he had already made me fall deeply in love with him, convinced me that I couldn't live without him. After he married Claire, he used restoring her honor as an excuse to make countless unreasonable demands of my family. He forced my father to help him and Claire secure slots for the college entrance exam, and made my brother help them with their daily work quotas so they could focus on studying. He even pressured my uncle, who was a teacher at the local school, to find them study materials and demanded that my family pay their travel expenses to the county for the exam. Feeding off my family's hard work and sacrifices, the two of them easily got into college. But the first thing they did after passing was to report my father, the company commander, accusing him of abusing his power, coercing Eric and his lover to break up so I could marry him, and labeling me the arrogant daughter. At that time, a report from college students carried far more weight than the defense of a commune commander. Moreover, when they came to our house to publicly break off the engagement, it was a grand spectacle. Many people from the production team witnessed it, claiming that my family had refused to end the engagement, ruining the reputation of the educated youth and almost driving her to suicide. In those years, the charge of abusing power for personal gain was extremely serious. My father not only lost his position but was sentenced to 5 years in prison. After he was imprisoned, my mother fell gravely ill and soon passed away. My brother, trying to seek justice for me, went to confront Eric Lynn, but Eric falsely accused him of breaking into his home and assaulting him, sending my brother to prison as well. In the end, I, Lisa, took a knife and went to the city, determined to find Eric Lynn and Claire, and make them pay with their lives. But just as I reached their school gate, a car suddenly swerved and dragged me under its wheels. In the instant my soul scattered, I saw Eric Lynn and Claire, neatly dressed, carrying new satchels, walk hand in hand out of the school gate. I couldn't understand why honest people like us ended up so miserable, while those two schemers who did so many wicked things could live on in bright, respectable lives with a promising future ahead. Maybe it was because my grievance after death was so great that when I opened my eyes, I had been reborn. I was reborn exactly at the crucial moment when I was about to be framed into breaking off the engagement. My memories stopped there. Eric Lynn, carrying Claire, angrily led nearly half the production team into our yard. "Lisa, I want to break off the engagement with her," he announced. When I heard that, I looked at Eric with a righteous face and at Claire, who was clinging to his back with her clothes askew, soft and limp, a patch of pale flesh exposed as if she had suffered untold humiliation. A hatred rose in me bone deep. You want to break the engagement? Fine, so be it. I'll arrange it for you too, I said. Seeing I didn't respond further, Eric frowned in displeasure and said, Lisa, although I'm partly at fault with you, I did touch Claire accidentally. I can't avoid taking responsibility for her. Claire began to sob. Tears streamed down her face, and she looked so pitiable. Lisa, it's all my fault. If you want someone to blame, blame me. Please don't blame Comrade Eric. Or just beat me to death if you must. After all, I'm that detestable. Her crying softened the scornful gazes of the onlookers into gentleness, and public opinion shifted immediately. She was chased by a wild boar, her clothes were torn, and she was injured and couldn't walk. How could she have wanted this? People said, a man like Eric willing to take responsibility is rare. If not, what else could she do but suffer or even die? Hearing the crowd, Claire cried louder and louder. But I didn't miss the falseness lurking in her tear-filled eyes. Eric looked at me with an expression of righteousness, as if blaming me for being ungrateful. I stared at those two hypocrites, wishing I could crush them into dust. But killing them wouldn't be enough. I had to make them live in misery worse than death. I wasn't just crying for show. Who wouldn't cry? So I pinched my thigh hard and tears poured down my cheeks in two streams. Eric, I agreed to break the engagement. I know you've had your eye on Claire and that her soft, tender body is more suited to you. I'm not worthy of you. I will break the engagement right now. Congratulations to the two of you, I said. Eric was stunned, about to say something, but how could I give him the chance to speak? I clutched my legs and wailed so miserably it hurt. You're an intellectual youth from the city. Do you look down on country girls? I cried. In fact, you despise everyone in our commune. You said we're just mud-streaked folk who only do hard labor. That talking to us lowers your status. Boom. Those words I just spoke struck like a level 10 earthquake. The looks of the villagers around Eric changed instantly. It was as if he had been revealed as the most shameless scoundrel of the century. Eric glared at me with venom. Lisa, what nonsense are you talking? I never said those things. I pretended not to hear him, shook my head as if the sky were collapsing, and continued to complain to the people around us. I know I overreached. If I could still help Eric with some fieldwork to earn him a few work points, how could he stay by my side? If it weren't for my father being the company commander and our family's conditions being the best in the whole production team, if I couldn't provide monthly support for Eric, if I had many younger brothers at home and no extra money, how could he ever agree to be my father's son-in-law? But does he really despise me and my family so much? I heard him tell his friends that we were just a country family with mud-streaked hands and feet and no education. He said that if we had no value to be used, he would have left me long ago. He mentioned that he and Claire had been seeing each other for a long time, and that a rough country girl like me wasn't worth one finger of Claire's. I dropped another bomb. The villagers around us even unconsciously stepped a little away from Eric and Claire, as if they were something dirty. I even heard someone sneer. Eric and that harlot. Eric's face went ashen and Claire turned deathly pale. She looked at me with tear-filled eyes and cried, Lisa, I know I've offended you, but I can't falsely accuse you of being innocent like that. If I knew people would talk about me like this, I'd rather have been bitten to death by a wild boar. Let me die. I don't want to live anymore. Hearing his lover cry, Eric's expression darkened even more. Lisa, you country girl, you are so crude. You're jealous of Comrade Claire, and you're saying nonsense. Truly shameful, he snapped. I fixed him with an ordering look and almost laughed coldly. He wanted me to kneel and apologize to Claire. Ha! No matter what, I would never kneel before those two scoundrels. That lousy man even wanted to use breaking the engagement to threaten me. Draymond. I blinked, hugged my chest as if deeply wounded and said, Fine, break the engagement then. If you want out, let it be. Lisa, Eric began. I thought people's hearts were like meat. You treated me well, and one day I'd see you're good. I never expected you actually don't matter to me at all. Now because I want to be with Claire and don't want to ruin her reputation, I'm breaking the engagement with you. Fine. If that's the case, I'll arrange it for you too. I pulled off the cheap red plastic hairpin Eric had given me and threw it at him. Take this back. From now on we have nothing to do with each other. And please return the 852 yuan and the more than 1,000 work points you owe my family. We'll call it even. Having said that, I pretended to be overcome with grief, covered my face, and turned to go into the house. My last words set the villagers' blood boiling once more. We're all people of the Red Banner production team. We might squabble sometimes, but if an outsider bullies one of our own, we'll stand up to protect them. This time Lisa stands on the high moral ground. So they're more than willing to help her seek justice. What's this about, Eric? Daring to swindle poor Lisa out of that much money? That's 852 yuan. How long did Captain Harris have to save to get that? How dare he demand it and then look down on our Lisa? She never called him poor. He's the one who leeches off others. Where does he get the nerve? Money's one thing, but there's also more than 1,000 work points, someone exclaimed. Good heavens! This poor girl has worked like an ox for him for 2 years to help him submit work points, and he still had the nerve to sneak around with someone else. How shameless! Get out of Lisa's house, you scoundrel! Claire clutched her face and sobbed. No, I'm not a bad woman, Eric stammered. Lisa and Claire are both innocent. Don't listen to her lies. Lisa, come out here and explain to us. If you keep being unreasonable like this, don't expect me to pay you any mind. Don't be so childish. Jealousy has its limits. Just admit you lied and apologize, and I might consider not breaking the engagement. When the villagers heard that, they were speechless. Aunt Maggie spat at Eric. Get out of here. You want our Lisa to apologize? Are you out of your mind? Stay away from our Lisa. A shameless intellectual like you is a disgrace to the title of educated youth. Let's help Lisa and drive those two scoundrels out and demand justice for her. At Aunt Maggie's shout, the people around us answered immediately. Beat them and send them away. Eric and Claire were driven out by the crowd. Claire's clothes, already torn in a large place, were ripped further, exposing another patch of white flesh inside. This whole sham of humiliation had literally torn her body. I heard their pitiful screams outside the gate and covered my mouth to stifle a smile, then stared hard at the calendar on the wall, my eyes full of bone-deep hatred. Eric, Lynn, and Claire, this is only the appetizer. I clawed my way back from hell. In the days to come, each day for the two of them would be far worse than today. My parents and my brother went to the neighboring production team's house. After I finished cooking, they still hadn't returned. I stood at the door waiting for a long time until I finally saw the three of them riding the ox cart back. I truly missed them. At the sight of them, I nearly burst into tears. My parents and my brother rushed forward and hugged all three of them tightly. My father, Captain Harris, looked at me, a tall man about 1.8 m with eyes red from anger, and said he already knew that the despicable Eric must have wronged our Lisa. Father's going to settle accounts with him right here, he declared. My brother Jack ground his teeth and said, I'll go too. We'll beat that bastard to death. How dare he have the gall to break off the engagement with my sister? I hurriedly grabbed their hands and wouldn't let them go. I don't want that bastard anymore. Let's just go home and eat. Half believing my words, my family followed me back. Even when I set the food on the table, they were cautious and didn't speak much. My mother put a piece of salted pork on my plate. Lisa, eat more, she urged. I pushed the piece back to her. Mom, you're not well. You should be the one eating more. My mother's health wasn't good. She needed to eat more. In my previous life, after my father was imprisoned, my mother had also died. Thinking back now, her health must have been poor for a long time. My mother laughed and put the pork back on my plate. I'm strong, Lisa. Eat it. I held back the bitterness at the corner of my eyes and picked another slice of salted pork from the dish to give to her. If you say you're not well, then you're not well. Mom, you must eat this. Wait a few days until the field work is done, and we'll go to the county for a health check. My goodness, my mother said, refusing. Your father and I are fine. Why waste the money? I smiled and said we didn't need them to pay. Tomorrow, I'll go demand Eric return what he owes. We'll use that money to pay for the health check. We won't lose out. My parents brightened when they heard me. Lisa, have you really forgotten Eric? They asked. I nodded firmly. Of course, a man who lacks self-respect is no better than a turnip. We can't let him bully us in vain. The work points I logged for him before, he must pay them all back to me. My father drew a long pull from his tobacco pipe and nodded in agreement. If that's so, make him pay it back. Tomorrow, we'll have that pale-faced fellow who's never done heavy labor go down into the fields to train a bit." Hearing that, the whole family laughed. Seeing their happy faces made my heart tighten with discomfort. I thought of how unfit I had been in my previous life, even though my parents had warned me many times. Eric Lynn looked over and sneered that I was just a weak, useless girl who couldn't handle heavy work. Yet I had been bewitched, insisting on staying by his side. Not this time. I would no longer let my loved ones suffer because of me. That night, I went into my room and instead of going to bed, I lit the oil lamp, took out my notebook, and carefully tallied every debt Eric owed. I wanted to count every penny I had spent on him over the past 2 years. I wanted that scoundrel who had many younger brothers and whose family was too poor to help, yet liked to live off others, to spend every day from now on under the shadow of my debt claims. At the youth station, Claire lay on the bed with her face covered, her shoulders trembling from sobbing. Eric carried a small bowl of millet porridge and gently comforted her. "Don't be sad anymore. Try to eat something." Hearing that, Claire sobbed even harder. "Today I was humiliated like that. How can I eat? I don't want to live anymore. Let me die." Hearing his lover cry, Eric's heart seemed to break. His eyes darkened with resentment. "Don't cry, Claire. Rest assured I will avenge you. Today that country girl insulted you. I will make her pay 1,000-fold. I'll make her kneel and apologize to you." Claire's eyes brightened and she looked up. "Eric, are you serious? But she already broke the engagement with you. Will she still obey you? We might also lose our spots for the college exam and our free labor contributions. What will we do then?" Eric smiled confidently. "Do you really think she dares to break the engagement? I think she's just jealous and putting on this act. Ha! This country girl has learned to fake it to get my attention, pretending to break the engagement to force me. Bad people have all sorts of tricks." Claire had been a little worried, but hearing Eric's explanation, she felt it made sense. That country girl Lisa was just faking to draw attention. Reassured, Claire's face changed from sorrow to joy and she told Eric, "Then you must make Lisa kneel and apologize to me, preferably in front of everyone in the commune." Eric pounded his chest and vowed, "Comrade Claire, rest assured I'll get it done." Early the next morning, everyone at the youth station got up to prepare for work. Eric, stiff and sore after being driven off yesterday, still had to get up with the rest, but he didn't hurry to wash. Unlike the other educated youths, thanks to Lisa's help, he rarely had to do heavy fieldwork and could loaf at the youth station, reading, drinking tea, and practicing calligraphy. Move on, the woman in charge of the youth station, I'll call her Nancy Wu, looked at Eric and said, "Eric, now that you've broken the engagement with Lisa, you probably won't have anyone to help you do the work or record work points anymore. Do you have to go down to the fields with us today?" At that question, everyone's eyes turned to Eric. He shook his head evasively. "No need. There will still be people to help me today." Nancy Wu laughed. Indeed, Eric has a strong pull. He broke the engagement and yet still makes the captain's daughter swoon over him. There's no way ugly guys like us can compete. Eric scoffed and said nothing, which only made Nancy Wu angrier. Eric, the pale, soft-faced type like Eric Lynn, had a pleasing face that made people green with envy. Nancy Wu muttered under her breath, then led everyone away with a bitter look. Before leaving, Claire and Eric glanced at each other. Eric gave her a reassuring look, and Claire, reassured, walked off. Huh, that country girl surely won't hold up. Sooner or later she'll come crawling to Eric, begging for forgiveness. And then we'll humiliate her badly to avenge yesterday. After everyone took their tools and left, Eric, as usual, pulled out a book to read. Now he couldn't read for pleasure like before. He had to study math, literature, and physics. After all, the college exam was coming. Unfortunately, he didn't have those books. He would tell Lisa later to have her eldest uncle, the teacher at the school, find him some copies. Those books were treasures now and hard for ordinary people to get. But even if she didn't have them, he had a way to force Lisa to help him. After all, she loved him to death. Eric lounged at the youth station, quietly waiting for Lisa to come soothe him, but she didn't show. Nancy Wu, with a teasing face, said to Eric, "Captain, the captain's daughter from Team 6 is calling you out to the fields to work. Hurry up. If you don't finish your work points today, there'll be no supper tonight." Hearing that, Eric's face instantly darkened. He secretly hated Lisa for really refusing to work for him anymore. We'll see later if he'll still care about her, I thought. Under Claire's astonished gaze, Eric had to go out to the fields. His task today was plowing. He had never done such hard labor before. Nancy Wu pointed to a large plot of land and said, "Eric, this is your assignment today. Make sure you plow it." Eric stared at the expanse of land, his face growing darker. After breakfast, I slept until noon, then took out the ledger. I'd stayed up all night writing and lazily went out to the fields. Only I wouldn't help that scoundrel. Eric went to work to earn his work points. How could time be so plentiful and a person so idle? I'd once been stupidly infatuated with that scoundrel. Why had I adored him so much? I had done so many things for him to earn work points. And in return, he not only failed to value me, but bit me back, hating me so much he wished I'd die. In my previous life, I never understood why Eric treated me that way, why he was so vile. Now I did. Some people's hearts simply cannot be warmed. If they can't be warmed, you might as well pluck them out and trample them. I walked to the edge of the paddies and from a distance saw Eric, exhausted, plowing like a dog. When he saw me, his face grew cold and he turned his head away on purpose, refusing to look at me, but his shoulder tilted slightly in my direction, as if waiting for me to come over. Seeing the show he put on, I smiled coldly. This jerk still thought I was sulking at him, so let him keep thinking that. I stepped forward, stuffed a handful of fruit candies into Aunt Maggie's hand. She was the one keeping the work point records and said, "Aunt Maggie, these candies are from my eldest uncle. Try them." Aunt Maggie took the fruit candies and smiled like a blossom. "Thank you so much, Captain's daughter," she said. I touched the ledger in my pocket and smiled faintly. Aunt Maggie added, "You don't have to come to work anymore, child." She looked toward Claire and Eric in the distance and kept nodding. "We know you just rest. We've got someone to help you with your share." Eric waited for a long time but didn't see Lisa and couldn't help turning his head, only to discover I had already left. Aunt Maggie, holding the points ledger, walked over. "What are you staring at, Eric?" Aunt Maggie shouted from across the field. "If you don't work properly today, you won't finish your 10 work points." At the words 10 work points, Eric nearly fainted. "Auntie, how many points did you say?" Aunt Maggie raised all 10 fingers. 10. "Did you forget you still owe Lisa 1,352 work points? If you don't start making them up, when do you plan to pay her back? Out of today's 10 points, 7 go to Lisa. She was kind enough to leave you 3 so you wouldn't starve. So you better work hard every day from now on. If you don't finish your 10 points, you're not going anywhere. No work, no food." Eric was stunned. Lisa really made me pay her back in work points. Aunt Maggie scoffed. "If it weren't true, would I be out here telling you this? Now get to work or you'll go hungry tonight." Nancy Wu, standing nearby, couldn't stop laughing. "Huh. So that pretty face of yours is finally useless," she said, clutching her stomach with laughter. Eric ground his teeth. "You know nothing. This is just one of that country girl's tricks, pretending to walk away to get attention. Do you understand?" Nancy laughed even harder. Sure. You're absolutely right. You're still the captain's precious future son-in-law." Among the workers, one of the educated girls who didn't get along with Claire overheard and sneered. "So the lovebirds finally became a pair. Huh. Didn't expect that one of them would just be some used-up girl tossed aside after he was done with her. Ha! I'm dying of laughter." Claire couldn't bear hearing that. She covered her face and ran off crying. Eric wanted to chase after her, but when he saw Aunt Maggie glaring at him from across the field, reminding him that if he didn't finish his 10 work points, he wouldn't get dinner, he didn't dare move. Once the field business was settled and Eric had been assigned his 10 points, I got on my brother's bicycle and rode toward the county town. In this era, a grown man could earn at most 10 work points a day, and a woman at most 5. For a weakling like Eric Lynn to have to complete 10 points every single day would teach him what real life felt like. Most importantly, from now on, he'd be busy every day working for me instead of having the free time to study for the college exam. This time I would cut off his path to success. He wanted a future. I wouldn't let him have one. I wanted him to crawl in the dirt like a roach, never able to raise his head again. After more than an hour of pedaling, I finally reached the county town. I didn't go to find my uncle, who was teaching at the school there. Instead, I went straight to the scrap station in the north end of town. I knew exactly what I was looking for. There I found a full set of high school textbooks and several exam prep booklets. In my previous life, my uncle had found these same materials at this scrap collection station for Eric and Claire. They used them to pass the college entrance exam. This time I would make sure they would never get their hands on them again. I quickly found the books and old exam papers, packed them into a sack, and carried them home. These test treasures were mine now. The college exam I missed in my last life, I wouldn't miss it again. Yes, I was also a senior high student. That was the main reason Eric Lynn had been willing to lower himself to get close to a rural girl like me. He once said I was different from the others, that I had the grace of someone who'd read books. In my previous life, I'd also qualified to take the college exam. My grades had been excellent, and I'd passed the cultural test easily to earn a spot. Ironically, Claire hadn't qualified at all for the college entrance exam. Back then, Eric Lynn had taken advantage of my guilt, claiming I owed Claire and used that as an excuse to steal my exam quota. But this time, no one would take it from me again. The youth station was built at the entrance of the village, so when I returned from town, I had no choice but to pass by it. By coincidence, just as I rode past, I saw Eric Lynn holding Claire in his arms, comforting her as she sobbed miserably after being bullied by the other educated girls. They looked so close it was almost indecent. Eric had been working in the fields all day, covered in dirt from head to toe. Yet Claire didn't seem to mind at all. The sound of my bicycle startled them. And when Eric looked up and saw me, his expression instantly filled with disgust, as if I were his worst enemy. He blocked my way and snapped coldly. "What are you doing here? What? You've come to apologize now? Too late. After all the misery you caused me and comrade Claire, don't expect me to forgive you." Claire bit her lip and said weakly, "Lisa, it's natural that you hate me, but you shouldn't slander Eric. He's preparing to take the college entrance exam now, and once he gets in, he'll have a bright future. If you keep ruining his reputation, do you realize what consequences that could bring?" Eric gave a cold laugh. "Claire, why waste your breath on a country girl like her? What would she understand? She only knows jealousy and slander." He raised his chin proudly and said, "Lisa, if you kneel down right here in front of everyone and apologize to us, I might consider forgiving you. Otherwise, don't even think about it." The commotion quickly drew everyone out from the youth station courtyard. They all came to see what was happening. Nancy's eyes widened in disbelief, her face full of excitement. "Lisa," she gasped, "you're not seriously going to kneel and apologize to him, are you?" I let out a sharp, cold laugh. "Kneel? Apologize to him?" I looked straight at Eric Lynn, who was still holding his head high with that arrogant air of superiority. "Eric, I'm not the one who's shameless here, so what should I be apologizing for?" Honestly, I had only been passing by, but now that I'd run into him, I figured I might as well handle this without having to make a second trip. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the notebook I'd stayed up all night writing in, and opened it before the crowd. "Eric Lynn," I said evenly, "you owe me 852 yuan for dimes and 5 cents. When exactly do you plan on paying me back?" Eric's confident expression cracked. "What money? What are you talking about?" I flipped through the notebook and began reading aloud. "April 1975, you had just arrived here. Your health was poor and you didn't have money to see a doctor. You cried and borrowed 5 yuan from me for medicine. May 1975. You said you didn't have summer clothes and the others at the youth station laughed at you. You borrowed 10 yuan to buy a shirt. July 1975, you said you didn't have pens or paper so you borrowed 2 yuan 5 dimes and 3 industrial coupons to buy stationery. August 1975, you said you were feeling weak again and borrowed 10 yuan and 2 food coupons to buy milk, malt, biscuits and other nutritious food. September 1975. As I continued reading, the expressions on everyone's faces at the youth station grew more and more colorful. The way they looked at Eric changed from surprise to open disgust. Even his only friend, Benwin, quietly stepped back from him. "So that's why his family's situation is so bad," someone muttered. "And yet he always dressed better and ate better than the rest of us. This explains it." "Yeah," another sneered. "Borrowing money every month. That Eric Lynn isn't just shameless. He's a full-time freeloader. Stop reading. Eric Lynn, so proud and obsessed with his reputation, looked like he was about to break. His jaw clenched tight as he glared at me. Lisa, you've really got some nerve. I thought you were a simple, honest girl, but you've been secretly keeping a debt book on me. It's not like I owe you that much money anyway. Fine, I'll pay you back right now. He dropped Claire's hand and stormed into his room, clearly going to get the money. Claire, meanwhile, had stopped crying. She looked at me with a face full of fake sympathy and said softly, Lisa, why are you forcing Eric like this? Do you really think pushing him so hard will make him come back to you? It won't. You're just driving him further away. Women shouldn't be so stubborn. Sometimes you need to soothe a man's ego. If you give him a way out, maybe he'll make peace with you. Her words almost made me nauseous. As expected, two people who share a bed really are the same kind of trash. Claire and Eric were a perfect match. I gave her a cold, cutting smile. I really wouldn't know how to soothe the man. It seems you've got plenty of experience with that, don't you? As soon as I said it, the crowd of young intellectuals who had gathered to watch the commotion burst out laughing, especially a few of the women who already disliked Claire. They laughed the loudest. Claire's face went pale. Lisa, I was just trying to be kind and give you advice. How could you say that to me? I was about to fire back with another jab when Eric Lynn returned. Claire, don't bother wasting your time on her, he said coldly. Then he turned to me with that self-righteous look of his. Lisa, here's the money I owe you. This is the end between us, completely over. He looked at me as if he were some noble martyr forced to deal with a crazy woman, as though I was being unreasonable. I honestly wanted to vomit. Even now, this scumbag still thought I was just pretending to be angry, faking indifference to get his attention. He really was delusional. If confidence could be bottled, he could sell his. I took the money from his hand and counted it. 12 yuan and 3 dimes. Of course, it was probably money he had skimmed from me earlier and saved up to look generous now. Not enough, Eric, I said flatly. His face flushed bright red. It's just 100 yuan more. You think I try to cheat you out of that? I nodded. Seriously? Yes, I do think you cheat me. In these days, a worker's monthly wage was barely 20 yuan. For a farming family, 100 yuan was a huge sum. If my whole family hadn't spoiled me so much, I'd never have been able to spare that kind of money to support him. Eric's face turned green with embarrassment and anger. Nancy Wu, who had been watching from the side, could barely hold back her laughter. Lisa, she said, don't worry. He won't be able to cheat you. Make him write an IOU right here in front of all of us. Everyone here at the youth station will be your witnesses. That's right, the others agreed. We'll be witnesses. He wouldn't dare not pay you back now. For once, Eric hesitated. His usual arrogance wavered for a moment, but how could I let him back down so easily? I said deliberately, What's wrong, Eric? Don't have the guts to write it. How about this? If you kneel and apologize to me in front of everyone and bow 3 times, I'll forgive you of your debt. What do you say? In your dreams, he hissed, glaring at me, humiliated beyond words. Fine, I'll write it, Lisa. But from today on, don't expect me to ever acknowledge you again. Under the glow of the setting sun, I left the youth station satisfied, clutching the IOU Eric Lynn had written for me. 172 yuan, 1 dime and 5 cents. That evening after dinner, I went back to my room and opened my books. There was only a little over a month left before the college entrance exam. Time was short and I couldn't waste a second. When my family learned that I wanted to take the exam, my parents and brother refused to let me do any heavy work. And besides, my work points were still being earned by Eric Lynn every day. Now, for once, I didn't have to lift a finger. All I had to do was focus on studying. But Eric Lynn wouldn't be as carefree as I was. Every day he had to finish 10 work points, more than his body could bear. Each evening, he came home utterly exhausted, with no time even to read. Now that the college exam had been reinstated, everyone at the youth station wanted to take the test. But they weren't current high school seniors. Under provincial rules, they first had to pass the selection exam run by the Education Bureau in a few days to qualify for the real college entrance exam. So everyone was busy reviewing and studying hard, preparing for the test. Because of their staged performance, Eric and Claire standing at the youth station was terrible. No one wanted to lend them books or share prep materials. Watching themselves fall further behind made them anxious as ants on a hot pan. What are we going to do now, Eric? Lisa still won't make peace with you, and you'll have to work more every day just to have enough to eat. You'll have to work harder to share more grain with Claire. Every day will be not only exhausting, but also without textbooks and prep materials. Shouldn't we go find her and force her to take back the engagement? Claire's face darkened. I didn't expect that country girl to be so temperamental. But don't worry, little Claire. I'll think of something. I'll go after her and trick her into giving us study materials. Once we pass the exam, we'll expose her father and take ruthless revenge. We must make that scornful Lisa never be able to raise her head again for daring to humiliate me. I studied at home for a few days and rested at noon, holding the IOU in my ledger as I prepared to go out for a walk. I wondered how Eric was getting on. He must be used to heavy labor by now. After all, he'd have to get used to being hounded by my debt claims. When I reached the field, I saw Eric already sun-darkened from the work. Strangely, when he saw me this time, he didn't scowl. Instead, his eyes brightened. He had intended to look for me today but hadn't expected me to come to him. Apparently, he still couldn't let me go. That kind of uneducated girl couldn't keep her composure, he thought. He shot Claire a confident, reassuring look from afar and then waited for me to approach. I walked slowly up to Eric intending to speak, but he beat me to it. Lisa, you came to make peace with me, right? I knew you couldn't really let me go. So let's make up. I'll forgive you. I realized then how shameless that scoundrel truly was. I laughed aloud at the calculating look in his eyes. Ha, Eric Lynn, what a nice dream you're having. Wanting to make up with me? A rotten cucumber like you? Do you really think you deserve me? Nancy Wu burst out laughing. Not worthy. Many people working at the patty bank heard the commotion and laughed until they cried, pointing at Eric and calling him shameless for trying to defile a pure girl's name and then daring to climb so high. Hearing them call Claire a used-up girl, her head bowed almost to the ground. I took out the IOU in my ledger and announced, I came here to demand the remaining over 100 yuan you owe me. Eric Lynn, when will you pay me? Eric looked toward Claire and stammered, It's not just the money. I'll pay you this afternoon. It's nothing big. I nodded. If he said he'd pay that afternoon, I'd come. Eric had better keep his word. If not, I can't promise what I might do with that IOU, I said and turned to leave. When I said I'd come by that afternoon to collect payment, I clearly saw Claire tremble twice. It looked like Eric had already handed her part of the money he'd scammed from me, and now he was trying to claw it back. But how could Claire possibly have that much money? As far as I knew, Claire's family treated sons far better than daughters. In the years she'd been an educated youth, nobody at home had ever sent her anything. Sure enough, that afternoon when I went to the youth station to collect payment, Eric took half the day before he finally gave me 30 yuan. While I took the money, I vaguely heard a few sobs from Claire's room. She was crying that for now that was all she could manage. She'd give him the rest later. I gave Eric a sideways look and said, I'll let you off today, but tomorrow you must bring the rest. If not, I'll come after you every day until you pay. The crying inside grew louder. I brought the money home. Over the next few days, whenever I felt worn out from studying, I'd go down to the patty bank and demand the debt. Eric couldn't stand it. He tried to make peace several times, but each time I publicly scolded him. Claire got berated by her family for the money and spent her days crying at the youth station. She stopped going down to the fields. Eric was only pulling about 4 work points a day now, and he had to take care of Claire's food, so they were constantly short and miserable. I even heard them fight several times. Claire called Eric useless, and Eric called Claire's ideas stupid. They spent whole days tearing into each other at the youth station. It was endless. One of the people I talked to a lot was Ben Nguyen. After a few conversations, I found him interesting. The key fact was that in his previous life, he'd done extremely well on exams, missing the provincial top score by only 10 points. He said he just didn't have good prep materials. Otherwise, he might have been the top scorer. So, I approached him and offered to provide him with prep materials if he would, in return, tutor me in math. He glanced at the prep materials I had and happily agreed. From then on, we became study partners. He occasionally shared with me a few humiliating snapshots of Eric's miserable state. I felt exhilarated and my review work improved. In a flash, the selection exam organized by the Education Bureau arrived. Everyone at the youth station, myself included, took part. Just like in my previous life, I passed the selection exam easily. Eric and Claire both failed before the college entrance exam. Eric's family cut off all contact with him, and he finally scraped together 120 yuan to come pay me. He came holding the money and begged, "Lisa, I actually still like you. If you give Claire my spot for the college exam, I'll come back to you." I gave him a kick that would have shattered his pride. The scumbag could keep dreaming. If he wanted to have Claire as his lover, he could keep dreaming. After Eric paid back everything he owed me, the two of them were left completely penniless. To get a little extra food, they had to work like crazy to earn work points. By the time my college exam results came in, the two of them had been sunbaked until their skin had turned a bronze color. Their rough, callous skin had lost any trace of the refined look they once had. Nobody called Eric pale-faced anymore, and Claire looked several years older. Aunt Maggie, popping a fruit candy into her mouth, said, "That wretched pair dared to look down on our country girls. Now they're below us and our Lisa's skin looks better than ever. She's even prettier." My college admission notice arrived exactly on time. I was admitted to Capital Polytechnical University, and Ben Nguyen actually became the top scorer in the entire province, getting accepted into Tsinghua University. When our admission letters arrived at the commune, my parents, my brother, and I couldn't stop smiling. This time they finally saw me bringing honor to our family name. The day after we received the admission letters, I went to the fields to bring lunch to my parents and brother. Suddenly a sharp pain hit my head, and everything went black. When I came to, I found myself locked inside a room by Eric, Lynn, and Claire. "Eric," Claire whispered, "wait until she wakes up. Once you sleep with her, she'll have no choice but to give me her admission letter." "Thank you, Eric. When I become a college student, I'll never let you down. You can trust me." Then I felt the buttons on my blouse being undone one by one. When his hands began tugging at the waistband of my pants, I snapped my eyes open and screamed at the top of my lungs, "Help! Eric! Lynn!" He hadn't expected me to wake up so soon. He lunged to cover my mouth, but before he could touch me, the door burst open. Someone kicked him hard, sending him sprawling across the floor. Claire screamed in terror. Ben Nguyen rushed in and wrapped me tightly in a quilt to cover me. Behind him came a police officer wearing a peaked cap, followed by my parents and my brother. Yes, it had all been planned. I had deliberately allowed myself to be struck and kidnapped. The night before, we'd already learned about their disgusting plan. Ben had overheard everything while standing behind a big tree near the youth station and immediately told me. So we set the perfect trap to catch the rats in their own hole. Eric, Lynn, and Claire never imagined they would fall so completely. Their crimes were undeniable. Eric was convicted of assault and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Claire, for kidnapping, was sentenced to 15. Thanks to the strict criminal crackdown during those years, both charges were considered major offenses. The rest of their youth, the best years of their lives, would be spent behind bars. On the train heading to the capital, Ben sat beside me. "Lisa," he said with a shy smile, "would you like to try dating me?" I gazed out the window, watching the scenery rush backward, and shook my head. "Ben, right now, I just want to focus on my studies. At our age, if all we do is think about love every day, what's the point?" He scratched his head and laughed. "You might be right. Fine then. Next time I'll ask again." I smiled but said nothing. Yes, youth is beautiful. Why waste it on heartache? The world was opening up before me, bright and vast, waiting for me to explore it slowly. Still, maybe the next time Ben asked, my answer wouldn't be the same. After all, falling in love with someone like him during the best years of my life didn't sound so bad.